Yes, okay. How about the previous classes? Do you manage to always?
Yeah.
On time? Okay. How about the homeworks? You didn't do it yet? You have to do them though. You actually have to do them. If you want, are you planning to write the exam this term?
Yeah.
Okay, then you have to do them. Like you don't have a choice. You have to absolutely do them. None of them you have started yet? So I'm gonna say it again. In FAU class, you coming to class won't help. Well, of course, you need to come to class plus do all the exercise in order to be able to pass. Huh? And yes, it's not guaranteed because you need to practice, memorize, and everything. So you need to be able to do a lot. All the memory card, the definition card, and theory class, you also have to do them. Okay. Or still in September, you still have time. Okay. All right. Let me see. Initially, I planned to do a 3-hour class. Yeah. But I have only you today. Okay, so since I only have you, can we spend a few minutes? I want to see our study plan just to see if we're on time. I'm a bit worried. So we are here already when we're about here. Review class. Oh, we'll be finishing in very quickly in November. If I do 2 class each. But October, do you guys know when it's Chongben? 1 and 3, right? 1, 2, 3, I remember. So we cannot have class on 1, 2, 3. So we cannot, we need to be doing these 2 class cannot do that.
1, 2, 3 from Tuesday to Thursday.
Yes, exactly. So we're missing 4 hours. And then we have, and do you know when is festival? Can you double check with me? I'm seeing if there's anyone, if at 6:10 there's still no one, then we start the class, okay?
Festival on 14 to 16.
14 to 16, is it Tuesday and Thursday?
Thursday to Saturday.
Thursday to Saturday, so third, 17, no. 14, Oh, okay, so we can have class on 12. All right, okay. So this is still 3 hours, so we can actually do 2 hour all the time. Okay, and then we still have time. We will still have time in thing. Let me see. I'm seeing if we can have a shorter class today, if I have no participation. So this week off, and then we have one more week. And then that's it, right? I can only have 2 weeks of review. You can only have 2 weeks of review, and then your exam is here. So we actually don't have much time. Okay, so we need to follow this from now on. Okay. All right, okay, all right. Okay, so let's see. Oh, all right, Ming Hong and Gek is on. All right, okay. My regulars are here, so we can start the class. Great. Is it recorded yet? How do we know? I don't know how to record it. I can record it, right? Co-host. I'm hosting. Can I record it? How do I do that? Pause, stop recording. Okay. It is recording already. Okay, great. All right, okay. All right, so let's start the class. I see 2 of you are here. Okay, great. All right, so let's do what I have planned today. All right. So today we will continue on what we have learned on Tuesday about the documentation of internal control. So we first learned what is narrative notes and what are the flow charts. So today we're going to learn what are the questionnaires. Maybe I will. All right. Can you guys hear me without the echo? All right. So let's start together. I think maybe we haven't downloaded yet because it was on it. No, not here. Oh, here. Okay, here. Okay. All right. So, Mei Huang and Gabe, can you hear me? Gabe, you did not come to class today. Mm. Oh, okay. All right. Can you guys hear me well online? Okay. Then let's go. I'm getting a bit hot, which is rare. Are you getting a little bit hot? You okay? Let me turn 64. What the hell is that? 24. Does it turn on? These things can be turned on. 64 Fahrenheit. How much is that 64 Fahrenheit? I don't know what that is. Okay. Let's just turn on a little bit. All right. Okay. And I have Sik Hong here as well. Great. Okay. So we can start the class together. Now, for those of you who weren't here, I'll just remind you what we have learned. So, on Tuesday, we learned what are the techniques used to record internal control. And we learned what is a narrative notes and what is a flow charts. So today we're going to learn what are the technique used using the questionnaire, internal control questionnaire, ICQ, and internal control evaluation questionnaire, which are the ICEs, and checklists. And then we need to be able to provide examples and explain the format and contents of ICQ and ICEs. Okay, so let's have a look. So we go. So again, just a quick reminder. What are the 5 components of the internal control? You guys still remember? We have the control environment. We have the entity risk assessment. We have the information system, what kind of system they use. We have the control activity. And how we monitor these controls, right? So make sure you remember all of those and be able to explain them, okay? So that's what we learned on Tuesday. Bunit, you need to make sure to go through very, very important class on theory, okay? Now, today we're gonna move forward. We learned that there are different ways to record accounting system, narrative notes, organizational charts, flow charts, questionnaires, and checklists, right? So today we will focus on what are the questionnaires. Okay. So remember, a narrative note, it's when we ask the client how their system works and we record it in a word. So we're gonna ask the client, how do you record yourself? And then they're gonna tell you, well, we're gonna, first the clerk will write the sales order, then he checks the inventory, and he submit the sales order to the warehouse. Then the warehouse will send the check and prepare the delivery and send to the customer. Like something like that. So you need to describe how it works. A flow chart, on the other hand, is a diagram, right? The flow chart's a diagram, so it has the different flow on how you start until the end, and I want to write quickly for Bonnet. So this is the beginning, and then you have a activity from one to another, and then different activity, and then it will be in. So that will be a flow chart, right? And what we have mentioned is that the flow chart is easy to visualize, so you would be able to see the whole system. However, it takes a longer time to prepare them and harder to modify them. So now we have a third option on how to document the client system. It's through a questionnaire. So we're going to be asking questions at the client. And the client needs to answer these questions to help us to understand their control system. So let's have a look. It helps us to identify what are the key controls and help us to able to visualize if there's any deficiency in their controls. So the first type is called ICQ, Internal Control Questionnaire. It is used to see whether a particular control exists and which meet this control objective. And this helps us to see if the design of the control is adequate. I want you guys to highlight that and probably remember. Internal Control Evaluation Questionnaire are called ICE. And they are used to check whether a certain existing control is operating effectively. We want to see if these controls are able to prevent and detect errors. One wants to see if they exist. The other one is checking if it's operating effectively or not. So it's not gonna ask the same question. So I'm gonna give you guys some example at the back. So one, check if the control exists. So we want to see if the design is okay. Whereas for ICE question, we want to know if the control is operating effectively, if the control is able to detect and prevent errors. So for example here, if it's an ICQ question, usually it can be answered by yes or no. The question is being very detailed, so the question is more detailed. And for example, our PO check to good received note before being passed for payment. Our supplies examined on arrival as to quantity and quality. Our inventory records reviewed by a person independent of those responsible for the receipt and control of goods. So here we're actually detailing an action, right? So is PO checked to good received note? Or supply examined for quantity and quality? So it's more about, it's very detailed and you can mostly answer by a yes or no. If no, it means the client may have some weaknesses. If yes, means they covered the risk. So that's what we call an ICQ question, Internal Control Questionnaire. Now, when it's an ICE question, The question is more broad, more vague. And you need to write, like you need to elaborate your answer, right? Longer answer. Oh no. More broad question. So for example, how do you make sure sales are properly authorized? How do you make sure the sales are authorized? And the client, the customer, our client, when we see this, they cannot answer by yes or no. They would need to elaborate the answer more. How do we ensure all invoices are properly prepared? Well, here we need to describe what we do. So the question you see here, it's a more vague, more general question. So more general question. Is inventory safeguarded from physical loss? How is it safeguarded from physical loss? So here we need the customer to detail a little bit more. So these are the two types of questionnaires we have. Either ICQ would be a list of a lot of questions, and the client need to just answer yes or no, so it's quicker. I don't know why there's a echo. Do you hear the echo, or it's okay? You okay with it? Okay. So what are the advantage and disadvantage of ICQ? ICQ are very quick to prepare and very easy to use, right? What we do is we list maybe 100 questions, and very easy. The client will just look and say, yes, we have that. No, yes, yes, yes. So very easy to use and control. Whenever the client say no, we need to check. Do they have other control around there? How do they make sure this doesn't have any errors? So this is the advantage of ICQ question. However, do you believe that every company must use exactly the same type of controls? What do you think, Vinit? No, right? Every company doesn't work the same. Sometimes they don't have the department itself. So it's actually not as relevant when you want to apply the same controls to all companies. So it may contain overstated irrelevant control because all company operate differently, right? But it's actually easier. It's easier to manage and control. If I am a client, I would like to have an ICQ because for me, it's easy to answer. I just need to answer yes, no, yes, no. Now, how about ICE? ICE is easier to apply to different systems because it's draft internal objective rather than the specific control. Right? So every company will be able to answer me. How do you ensure sales are authorized? Then we need to write longer descriptions. But this question we can apply to any company and they can answer because it's a more general question. So that's why I say it's draft internal objective. How do you make sure it's authorized? How do you make sure it's prepared? How do you make sure it's safeguarded? So it's a term of objective rather than the specific control, the detailed action control. When we read the answer of the client, it helps us to identify what are the key controls and weaknesses. But if our question is too general, or if the client answer way too general, it's sometimes easy to get misunderstanding. It's not clear what the client do, or the client doesn't know how to write properly and you don't understand what they're doing. So it creates these little problem here. I don't like it to have an IC question because it means the client have to write a lot. But it's better because it can apply to different systems. All right, so that's a little bit about that. You need to be able to provide example of ICQ and ICE questions. Now, at this moment, I have a trick for you. We're gonna learn how to do control objective. So, I think we did that quickly here. Oh, we did that here. We learn what is a control objective and what is a control activity, right? So we're gonna learn that in chapter 8 and 9. So by next week, we're gonna learn that what is control objective, what a control activity. And what you will need to do is ICQ or draft similar to a control activity, and ICE are draft similar to a control objective. So we're gonna come back to that. Whenever we finish the class in chapter 8, we're gonna come back to that and you'll be able to know how to write ICE questions and ICQ questions, okay? So let's have a look together. Okay. Let's try together. These are all questions I found in your BPP book. Have you attended any tutorials, Vanilla? All? Not really, okay. But you should, all right? You need to. It will help you, especially if you're planning to do the exam, okay? My student last term did not attend the tutorials, and I can see the difference because some couldn't pass the exam, even though they come to my class every day, every time, due to the fact that they're missing a lot of practice. So as I mentioned, FAU is a practice class. You need to practice a lot to be able to write because it's a blank page. It's not a multiple choice exam. So you need a lot more practices. And doing the theory and multiple choice for udon help you to understand. So it will help you for writing as well. So please go to udon's tutorials. I made sure to not have the tutorials the same day as the class so that you guys can attend. Okay? All right. Oh, it's a Casey. Oh, it's Casey with Casey's daughter. She leaving? All right. Okay. He may wonder why am I having a private personal class with you? All right. Now, let's have a question here. Which of the following question would you expect to find on an ICE question for the area of steps? Remember, ICE question are the question more detailed or more general? More general, right? My student online, you guys also help me answer, right? Mei Hong, Gek, Sipong. Now, let's see. Can sales be made without proper authorization? Can sales be made to customers who are not creditworthy? Are all invoices properly prepared? Are sales invoice checked to good dispatch note before being recorded on the ledger? What do you guys think? Which one are ICE question and which one are ICQ question? Any idea? Let's have a look. Which ones seem to be more detailed to you, Munir? 1, 2, 3, 4. Which one seems a little bit more, the action is very detailed? Number 2. Why can sales be made to customer who are not creditworthy? The control, the objective here would be, how do we ensure we only sell to customer who have good credits? How sales are properly prepared? How do we make sure we have, how do we ensure sales are properly authorized? These were the questions here. How about this last one? How sales invoices check to good dispatch note before being recorded on the ledger. Here, do you see that we're describing the document to use? Whenever they describe you, the people who are in charge or the document itself to use, and there's an action, here we check. This seems to be more detailed. Do you agree? So in here, the first one is, how do we make sure it's properly authorized? How do we make sure it's sold to customer with good credit? How do we properly prepare the invoice? So these 3 are actually more general questions, and then we have to answer it. How do we make sure we sell to customer good credit? Well, before we have a new customer, we need to do a background credit check, for example. See, you need to answer a bit more. But for the 4th question, our sales invoice check the good dispatch note before being recorded on the ledger. We can basically answer by yes or no. It's our big why, because it's so detailed, right? So the answer here should be 1, 2, 3 or ICE. 1, 2, 3. So the answer should be 1. You guys want to do another one? All right, let's go. Now, wait, let me see which one is it. This one may be a tiny little bit harder. All right. Which of the following question would you expect to find on an ICE question for the payroll system? Again, ICE, is it general or more detailed questions for ICE? More general, right? So let's have a look. Can the payroll supervisor authorize the payment of wages? Can employee be paid for work not done? Can statutory deduction be incorrectly recorded? So which one do you think correct here? Which one is more detailed and tells you a little bit more than general? Usually the trick I look at, do they give you the name of a specific document to use? Or do they tell you specifically the person who's in charge to do it or not? So these are for me some tricks to show that that question is more detailed. What do you guys think? My student online, you guys there? Okay, Mei Huang, Sif Hong. Can employee be paid for work not done? So basically the question is, how do we make sure we only pay for employees for the work done only? We only pay the employee for work done. How do we make sure of that? So that it seems more like a general question or a detailed question. General question, very good. Third one. Can statutory deduction be incorrectly recorded? Well, it says, how do you ensure the deduction is correctly recorded? So how do you ensure the deduction is recorded correctly? We ensure it's recorded correctly by installing a automatic formula in Excel, for example. So this is also actually a quite general question. Then we look at the first one. Can the payroll supervisor authorize the payment of wages? Here. Do you guys find it very detailed or general? What do you guys think? This question, because they tell you the payroll supervisor, he's doing an action and he's authorizing the payment. So can the payroll supervisor authorize the payment? Here, this question here, it's more of a detailed question because they specify the person. If it's a general question, instead, they were gonna say, how to ensure the payment of wages is authorized, right? Can payment of wages be incorrectly authorized? So if it's a question like that, then it's general. It won't specify who exactly need to do the job. Okay, so the question here, ICE would be 2 and 3. So the answer is C. The answer is C. Sokon. Hi, Sokon. Are you here? All right, very good. Does this seem to be harder for you guys? A little bit. Do you want to do another one? Already recorded. All right. No problem, Sokon. Thank you. I have someone else to answer me. All right, let's try this. Control checklist are often used to document system and control of the client. Which of the following statements are true? An internal control questionnaire, so the ICQ, is a list of all possible controls for each area of the financial statement. ICE, internal control evaluation questionnaire, does not attempt to record all controls like an ICQ. 3, for each control objective, an ICE asks for the control which achieved that objective. So which statement are true? What do you think? Let's have a look one by one. The first statement here, an ICQ is a list of all possible control for each area of the financial statement. Is that true? Do we list all the controls in the ICQ questionnaire? Yes, so the first statement is true. Second one. ICE, Internal Control Evaluation Questionnaire, does not attempt to record all controls like an ICQ. Is it true? What do we do in the ICQ? The ICE question. What is an ICE question? They're used to check whether a certain existing control is operating effectively. So we want to know if it's operating effectively to prevent or detect errors. So for example, sales authorized, inventory safeguarded. So the question is more broad. And do we attempt to record all controls here? We're drafting the question based on objective rather than controls, right? If we go back to here, ICE, it's drafted in terms of objective rather than specific control. So in ICE question, we are focusing on if the control objective have been met, not the control itself. So it is true that ICE does not attempt to record all controls. Okay. 3, for each control objective, an ICE asks for the control which achieve that objectives. Is it true? For each control objective, an ICE asks for the control which achieve that objective. If we go back to the example, how do we make sure cells are properly authorized? We make sure cells are properly authorized because all sales orders are being signed. How do we make sure invoices are properly prepared? We use a pre-numbered system. So when we say pre-numbered system, or when we say the manager will sign, these are the controls. So we're asking the question in terms of objective, and what the client need to answer is the control itself. So yes, it is true that for each control, an IC asks for the control which achieve that objective. So that's true. So in the IC question, we ask, what is the control in place? Whereas for ITQ question, what do we say? Do we ask for the control? No, we only need the client to tell me yes or no, because we already detailed the whole control in the question. For example, our PO check to good receipt note before being passed for payment. So the question is already very detailed. It's already listing the control. We just need to say yes or no. Our supplies examined on arrival as to quantity and quality, right? So here it's draft in terms of control, and we only need to answer yes or no. Whereas in ICE question, it's draft in terms of objective, and we need to answer by writing, detailing the control in place. So here, definitely 1, 2, and 3 is correct. So the answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, D. Very good. All right, let's do a last one. So Colin, I hope you can follow me, okay? Last one. I have a feeling that this question is not, let me see. Okay, so here. All right, let's have a look. Which of the following questions appear on ICQ? Again, ICQ. Is it the detailed question or the general question? Detailed. So we want to know if the question is very detailed, give us the action, give us the document to use, the person who is in charge, really give the action, okay? Detail. What document, who is the person who does it, okay? All new customer credit checked before goods are sent on credit. All sales order received in writing on standard pre-number form. So one only, two only, one and two, and none. What do you guys think? So Con, please answer with me, okay? Which one do you think is it detailed? And we can answer by yes or no, or is it a question that we need to elaborate the question? That would be an ICE question. So what do you guys think? The first question here is the detail. All the new customer credit checked before goods are sent on credit. Does this looks detailed or looks very general? Really? Because here they talk about new customer and their credit checked before. So here you're detailing exactly what the activity you do. Customer credit check before goods are sent on credit terms. If it's a general question, the question would be, how do we ensure we only sell to customer with good credits? How to ensure sales are made to customer with good credits? And then we will line it up here. It's actually very detailed. New customer credit check before goods are sent on credit. So you basically tell exactly what's the action. All new customer have a background check before we sell them on credit. So this is actually very detailed. How about the second one? All sales order received in writing on standard pre-numbered form. What do you think for this one? Is it detailed or general? It's actually detailed, very detailed. They're talking about sales order. So you're detailing the document to use. Here we're documenting the new customer. And then it's on standard pre-number form. We're detailing you exactly what document to use. The general question would be how sales are prepared. How sales are prepared, then you're gonna elaborate. But here they tell you very detailed. We use pre-number form. Here we check before goods are sent. So we actually tell you the control activity in place. So here the answer is actually one and two. How do I answer here? The answer is C. 1 and 2. Both are ICQ questions. I can see because we're detailing what document we use. We use sales order and we use pre-number form. Here we talk about new customer and it's credit checked. I prefer 4. If you guys are still not very familiar, if you want, let me find other questions. Do you want to practice with more ICE questions? Yeah? Okay, let me find a little bit more. If I can. I already took all the one that was available. I can maybe find some more for you guys. All right, good. Okay, so now we are done with this. So we have learned that we can document the internal control using different method, either the narrative note, the flow chart, or ICQ or an ICE, okay? And now, after we have learned that, we can start the new chapter. Oh, it's still it's still it's still the controls, but this time it's going to be part 2. So I have the part 2 here. All right, so let me go back to the classwork, and I think, oh, I haven't updated. Okay, so here, that's the part 2. So chapter 7, part 2, I'm going to post it for those that need the soft copy. And today, I think we should be able to finish that. Or we should just have enough time to do it too. So today, after we have learned about what are narrative notes, flow charts, and questionnaires, we will learn about different things today. We want to know how to describe the inherent limitation of internal control. And we would like to distinguish between this. I'm gonna wait to see if we have time today. We're gonna describe what is an inherent limitation. And today I would like to probably try to do one together, evaluate the system of internal control. Let me see if we should do that. Let's just start with the describing what is the inherent limitation of internal control first. And we'll see what to do. So Con, are you there with me? Okay, great. All right. Yes, all right, good. Up to. Okay, first, I would like to talk about a topic that is quite important in controls. It's about inherent limitation, meaning no matter how great your controls are, there is possibility that there will still be some control weaknesses that are present. Okay, and these are the different type of control weaknesses. For example, maybe every time we ask the staff to okay. We have control in place. That is working, and all right. I have a problem with the video and the audio. So Con, can you hear me well? Yes. Let me have a look. Yes, yes. Okay, all right. Um, okay, you know what? Let's let's we'll have a tiny break before we start that. I think better. I just need to check on that to ask if they are okay with the video. Let's have a 10 minute break. How are you guys today? I think I have two students today. You and Vanit and Sokon. Even Minghuan is not here, so you're my three students. Would you guys, I want to see how to do the rest of the class today. Would you guys want to do like a 3 hour today or a 2 hour class today? 2 hours, Sokon? Sokon's at home probably, so you don't mind, right? She's not answering. Okay, then we can maybe just do a 2 hour class. Yes, I don't mind. Yes, so I can maybe do a 2 hour class and see what we should do. Okay, I think we can do the general IT today. All right, okay, cool. Okay, great. So let's do that. So we'll have a 2 hour class. We can do that and that. Give me 10 minute break. Let me get a tea to wake myself up a little bit, and then we'll come back. A quick break. So Con, you can maybe review quick back on what you have missed just now, okay? Huh? No, I'm from Hong Kong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hong Kong and Singapore looks a bit similar though.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. All right, okay. I found one of the thing I couldn't find my glasses. All right. Okay, so thank you. We are back. So Con, are you back as well? Yes? Okay, perfect. All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so inherent limitation means that you have some weaknesses that it cannot be prevented. So for example, if you every day you ask your the supervisor to check if the data input in the system is correctly done or not. So what do? You ask a clerk to add into the data, and then at the end of the day, you look at the invoice and you check if it's the same amount as in your QuickBook, and you look. But this is a manual check. What happened is it's made by human. So for sometimes it can have some human error. Sometimes it can have some human error, right? Because humans are not perfect. Why? Maybe they're very tired, they're very stressed, so they're not doing their job properly. It happened to me for a client, is that when the clerk was going through a divorce. So she was going through a divorce, so she's not very focused at work. So what she did seems to have a lot of errors. So this could happen. We're human. It's happened. So sometimes, even though you have the best control in the world, because it's performed by human, sometimes the human will make mistake. The first one, potential human error, is not voluntary, is involuntary mistake, right? That they didn't mean to do it, but it happened. They're tired, they did not understand the work, and they didn't do the job properly. Now the second one would be a voluntary one. A voluntary mistake is we can have the best control in place, but if there's collusion between two people, then control can be bypassed. Or the management decide to override the control, mean to ignore the control and still proceed. For example, for a bank, before we can apply for a credit card, the bank needs to check your background, right? Need to check if you have enough money to pay before giving you a credit card. I think this is really what happened here a few years back. Then the staff colluded with a customer. So the customer couldn't actually get a credit card because he doesn't have enough money, for example. But the manager still approved his credit card. So here we have a collusion. The management override the control, ignore the control, and still let this customer to have a credit card. And in that case, what happened is I think they were able to, I don't know how many credit card they release, and they keep use that credit card to spend money and not to pay it at the end, right? So that happened because there were collusion between the two people. I think two people at the bank were in together, and the money they get, they split. Okay, so that would be collusion. Or the management override the control. So first, maybe the human did a involuntary error, or purposely, some people are deciding to bypass the control. Bypassing control means they ignore it and doing the do not follow the procedures. Sometimes cost of control does not outweigh the benefit. What does it mean? Segregation of duty is not practical in a small entity. Let's see. Segregation of duty not practical in a small entity. So, for example, a flower shop. You guys remember, like a flower shop? If you tell the flower shop, hey, you need to have good segregation of duty. So, Con, do you still remember what is a segregation of duty? Remember from Tuesday? Segregation of duty is when we need to separate the function between the different departments. One should only do authorize, one should only keep the goods or the cash, and one person should record. In a flower shop, can you tell the flower shop owner, hey, you need to hire one person and he only does take the orders of flower. You need to hire another person who only take the cash and one extra person who does the recording. What is the owner's gonna tell you? I will go bankrupt if I do that. And I'm a small shop. It's one person who needs to do everything. So, for example, here, segregation of duty is not practical in small benefit. The cost of control does not outweigh the benefit. So the cost of control, it seems to be a very good idea, but in a small entity, they don't have the money to spend on it. And the last one, control tend to be designed to cope with routine and not non-routine transaction. For example, here. I don't know how they do here in CAMET, but for CAMET, I know for sure whenever we need to buy new assets, it has need to go through a very rigid authorization process. For example, we need a new aircon. First, the one in charge of the classroom, we need to make a request. And then the finance team will evaluate if they really need to buy a new aircon. And then they will need to go look for 3 aircon prices and see which one is cheaper or better, and then proceed with the purchase, right? So they have a very strict rule because they need to make sure every time they spend money, it's used properly for the school, especially when the school is so big right now. Now, but what all company doesn't have is procedure in place when we need to sell some old assets. For example, this one is broken and we replace with a new one. The broken air conditioning, you can actually sell for scrap, sell for something. But because CAMET it's not in the business of selling scrap, right? It's in the business of education and teaching. This is not a routine transaction for them, right? So usually they won't have any controls over it. So what happened in many cases is the staff who does that in Cambodia, I see, is like, oh, this one is broken, so let's just see how much is it. They don't do a 3-shop comparison to see who pays more. They'll just give it to 1/7, the staff take care. He goes and says, like, how much can you have it? Oh, we just need to change that, so I give you back $100. But then he comes back to the company and say, oh, I can only sell it for $20. You understand? And the company will be like, okay, why? Because it's not a routine transaction. They don't know, right? It's once in a blue moon, right? That we are selling things. And this is why you actually that's why I say there's absence of control over unusual transactions. Not only here, even in Hong Kong, whatever I see they you know, the model house, how, like, when they want to sell condos, sell apartments, they would furnish the apartment with nice furniture, right? So that people can come and visit and can visualize themselves there. So they'll buy a nice TV, like sofa, like computer and everything in the model house. After they sold all the units, they will still have all these accessories. They'll have few computer use or whatever. They don't need it anymore. Because the sizing for here that won't match for the new condo project, the new project. So they'll have some how to say that, these projectors or whatever. They don't need it. So they'll auction it out. So they auction the whole lot to whoever bid the highest. Okay, so what they do, the staff cannot bid, so they call their friends. Hey, I have a bid. Now it's very cheap. Just spend maybe $10,000, but you get so much things. Let's buy it. And then they don't care because they're not into selling this business. They're selling houses, right? So these people actually get very cheap, and then they would separately sell these items. So when you have your own business, I think the area that you guys should watch out is all these fixed assets. If you resell it, make sure you still control that. Very easy to fraud in this area. All right. So let's try to do a quick. So let's have a look. So the 4 inherent limitation, either there's a potential human error, controls being bypassed, cost of control does not outweigh the benefit, or absence of control for unusual transactions. Inherent limitation is actually a popular topic, I find. I've seen it a few times, so let's have a look together. State 2 inherent limitation to internal control generally. And for each one, provide a detailed example of how the limitation stated may apply to any internal control system. How do you want to do that? I'll give you guys an example. So they want us to explain 2 inherent limitation, and they want you to give a detail, provide example. So, for example, the one I remember the most is cost of control doesn't outweigh the benefits, outweigh their benefits. So how should we? Oh, it doesn't outweigh their benefit. So that's the inherent limitation, and I need to explain it. So for example, a flower shop, a small flower shop will have difficulty to hire different people to perform segregation of duty because their resources are limited. As is a small entity. Or a small entity. All right. So, for example, that could be it. I need to explain and then give an example. So here we need 2. So a 5-mark question. It would be a good 5-mark question. Can you guys give me another idea? So Con, since you're here. Anything else? Among the 5 of them. The 4 of them. Or Bonnet. Which one do you remember? Use human error. Sure, let's do the human error too. There may be potential human error. So we can explain that. And how do you explain it? You guys tend to remember, but for explanation or for providing example, you guys tend to have a little bit more difficulties. So what could we do? I'll help you like out. When controls are being performed manually by humans, there will be a chance that the procedure may not be followed properly because the staff may be tired or sick and perform and commit unnecessary error. And commit involuntary errors, or the staff may just don't understand the procedure to do and do it incorrectly. Because the staff may be tired, sick, and commit involuntary error, or the staff may just don't understand the procedure to do. It may don't understand the procedure and do it incorrectly. You guys understand? So you need to be able to say and describe it. 3, I'll do an extra one. Controls are being overridden. Controls that are being overridden there is a risk that fraud or error may not be prevented or detected when the management or some staff would when the management decides to override the controls or when staff decide to collude together to commit fraud. And then if you want to probably, for example, the manager may, this happened a lot for us. The staff may decide to purchase unauthorized items. Before getting the proper approval. For example, so controls are being overridden. Normally, we have to get proper authorization. So the manager need to approve before you go buy something for the company. What happened for me and my firm is sometimes some staff just decide to buy and then give us the invoice and ask us to pay them back. But when we ask where's the approval for that, oh, nobody did it. So it depends on what the item is, then we tend to be nice and reimburse, but that is a great example of controls being overridden. All right, good. So that's about inherent limitation. Let's do another exercise. So make sure when you guys study to have a portion on inherent limitation, okay? And Bonit, this is in your computer, so you can go back and write it as well. I don't mind you writing it. It's good that you write it, so it helps you to memorize it. It's good. But the most important thing I want you guys to do is to do your BPP book. So Khan, have you done your BPP book? Oh, hi, Tianun. Have you tried to do some exercise in your BPP book? You guys need to start doing that, okay? I'm very worried. I have a lot of students last term that come to all my classes, did not do any exercise, did not go to tutorial, end up failing the class. And I was very sad. So that's why this term I keep telling, need to do the BPB. I have tried a little bit. Okay, good, Sakan. So now I need to try a little bit more. Okay, let's do another question on internal control. I have another MCQ. Here. Which of the following statement is not a valid reason to explain the inherent limitation of controls? There is potential for human error. The auditor cannot test every transaction and balance. Control can be bypassed or overridden. The cost of control does not outweigh your benefit. That one should be easy for you guys. Which one is not a valid reason? Number 2. The second. Good. Okay. See, this is not hard. The answer is B. Perfect. All right. So I expect that you guys should be able to answer a question on that. All right, so I think I only have half an hour more, so it's actually better for me if it's like that to do the communication with management. Will you guys be there on next Tuesday? Yeah? Yes? Next Tuesday? Are you sure? Of what? Next Tuesday is a holiday. Are you serious? But if we're CAT, we don't have holidays. Does it mean that you guys won't come to class? Is it a holiday? It's a Constitution Day. Okay. So Con, will you come to class? And Bunit, will you come to class? Okay. So Con, will you come to class? Technically, at CAMED, unless it's the big holiday, like Chumbin and Water Festival, we're gonna have the day off. For the other small holiday, CAT class don't follow. So, but I'm very afraid you guys won't come. So, all right. So today, should we still do our 3 hour? I only have you both. So you guys can decide. I'm here. So you guys can actually decide for that. Tianun, are you here? Only Sokan, right? So then we should go forward so that if we do until 9, then Thursday we'll do 3 hours next week. Then Tuesday I can have it off if you guys need to. What do you guys think? Are you there, Sakan? Yes. You agree? We have until 9 today and Thursday next week, and I have Tuesday off for you guys. So you guys don't miss too many classes. All right, sounds good. No problem. Then we do. Yes. Okay. Then let's do that instead. All right. So let's tough it up. If you need a break at 8 o'clock, we'll have one. Okay, 10 minutes. All right, or 5 minutes. Then okay, sure. Let's move on. So today I would like to continue and talk about general IT control and information processing control. So those are the controls in the computer environment. Okay, let's have a look. So before we do that, let's look at the syllabus. What do you need to learn for that? Distinguish between information processing control and general IT control, and identify the objective of each control type. Provide example of specific information processing control and general IT control. So basically, you need to be able to tell me what is information processing control and general IT control. What's the definition? What are their objectives? What are they used for? Then for each of them, information processing control and general IT control, for each of them, You need to be able to tell me some examples. So each of them, we need to learn the definition and provide some examples. Okay, so let's see. General controls. Do they call it general IT controls? General IT controls. They are policy and procedures that relate to many applications and support the effective functioning of information processing control by helping to ensure the continued proper operation of information system. So it's policy and procedure to ensure the continued proper operation of information system. This relates to the system environment. It ensures that the computer operations are properly administered to protect hardware, program, and data file. So for me, general IT control, it's all the control around the computer and within the computer to make sure the computer can work properly. Example, what kind of control do we need around the computer to make sure it works properly? Well, we need to back up the data backup, for example, at the back. We need other power sources. So if there's no electricity, what are we gonna do, right? We need to back up some data. If there's flood or fire, how do we protect the computer from it? So it's everything around it, right? So we're also gonna have some virus check, antivirus, to make sure the computer doesn't get attacked by viruses. We need to look at the program logs to make sure there's not any changes. If we change anything, it has to be properly approved. So we need controls before we do anything to the computer. Also, we want to make sure that not everybody can access the computer. So we need a password protection, and we want to make sure that the computer room is restricted. The access of the computer room should be restricted. Here, all your scores are in the computer. So the IT room should be locked by key. Otherwise, you guys can maybe sneak in and then change your score, right? We also want to make sure that people who use the computer know how to operate the control. So we need a proper training on staff. And when we buy any software or programs, we want to make sure we have a proper process to make sure we buy the correct one. So do you guys see these are what I call general IT control? It's all controls to make sure the computer can work, right? We need to make sure there's no viruses, there's electricity sources, the data is being backed up, password access. So all the thing around the computer to make sure the computer can work. And this is why I say here, it's procedure to help the continued proper operation of information system. Make sure the computer can operate continuously, right? And so it relates to the system environment. So it helps to make sure we protect the hardware, the program, the data file, like make sure everything is protected correctly. So that's what we call the general IT control, all the controls around it, okay? And for that, I have a little multiple choice question here. Which of the following general IT control would not minimize the risk to the computerized system of fire? So a type of control would be to protect from fire. For example, the computer room should be constructed of fireproof material. The computer room should have an adequate alarm system which warn of fires and high-risk conditions. You don't have that here, like an alarm. It will sound, it will beep, beep, beep if it's too hot. The computer room should be fitted with fire extinguisher and sprinkler. So if you see, we have a fire extinguisher there, right? In every room here to follow the procedure. Do you guys know what is a sprinkler? A sprinkler is a thing attached to the, it spray water. Whenever they sense the smoke, it spray water to help to prevent fire to come. You would see it in some movies, right? So that is what we call a sprinkler. And fourth, the computer should be protected with passwords so that only authorized personnel can use them. So which one will not minimize the risk of fire? What do you think? Which one will not help to prevent from fire here? First one, does it help us from fire? It's constructed from fireproof material. Yeah, it's fireproof, right? Okay. The computer will have an adequate alarm system which warns of fire. So if it's too hot, it warns us. That's going to help us. Fire extinguisher going to help us. The fourth one, so Con, you're right. The computer should be protected with password so that only authorized personnel can use them. It is a good general IT control, but this one does not help us to protect from fire here. Okay. All right, very good. Now, so that is what I call general IT controls. So now let's do information processing controls. So information processing control, on the other hand, are controls within the computer, and it helps us when we input data into the system. I'll give you guys an example. When you create a profile in your in the computer, whenever they say create an account, do you happen to create an account when you go online? You create an account. They're gonna say, all right, please put your zip code. Sometimes your zip code is only have to be 5 numbers. If it's not 5 number, they don't accept it. Or when you write, for example, what else? Passwords. When they want you to create passwords, right? They give you a format. Your password has to have 1 big letter, 1 small letter, 6 character, 1 symbol, right? So when you type your password and your password doesn't match that, what do? And then they say it's wrong, you need to follow the same format. So that is what we call a information processing control. It's control to make sure the data you input is correct. So it helps us to ensure the data is being properly managed here. So that's more about the data itself. Whereas general IT control are controls more around the computer to make sure it works. Now it's control to make sure the data is correct. So it's either manual or automated controls specific to an individual application in order to initiate, record, process, and report transactions or other financial data. All right. So information processing control can be preventive or detective in nature and are designed to ensure the integrity of the accounting records. So it's to make sure the accuracy and validity of the entries of data made. So information processing control or specific control in the computer that help us to ensure the integrity, the completeness, the accuracy of records. I'll give you guys an example. It will be very easy for you to understand. Here, I have a case study. Let's see. Veronica is the sales clerk. She inputs the number and the value of sales order to create invoices. So before she input the sales, there's a little table and she said, I have 12 orders for a total of $20,000. So she write that. And then she update the sales ledger. So she put each transaction in the system. When she has finished, the computer will calculate whether it has produced 12 orders at $20,000 and will produce an error report. So do you guys understand? So before she input the invoice, so there's a control, there's an information processing control, like a batch total. So they say, I'm gonna now put 12 invoice for $20,000 order. It will be in, and after she does the entry of each invoice, the computer will calculate, did she make 12 orders? And the total of 12 orders, is it really $20,000? If it's correct, it will go through. If not, it will produce a error report. So that is a type of information processing control. For the customer account field, it should be entering 3 letters, following by 6 numbers. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 letters, 6 numbers. The computer will reject all customer number that is not correct. Okay, so another type of control will be a format. It has to be 3 letters and 6 numbers. So let's say I have that. TUY 521614474. If I input that into the system, is the system going to accept it? No, why? 7 number, right? All right, if I put it like that, yes, it will accept it. How about that? If I do DY DEZA, is the computer going to accept this? DEZA 521617. No. Only accept 3 letters. So the computer will be like, this is wrong, and it's not going to process, right? So the computer will reject all customer number that is not correct. So this is a type of information processing control. So this is the first thing he does. So first he check if the format is okay. Then he check if the number exists in the system or not. Okay. So or will verify if the customer number, if it doesn't recognize the number in the master file. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is a master file. Customer number has to be authorized. So it cannot be a number that's not created in the system. So the second thing the computer will check is, do this number exist in my customer file? If it doesn't exist, then I'm not allowing it to go through because we don't recognize this customer, even though if the format is okay. Okay. So that's two things the computer does. After the invoice is created, the computer requires Veronica to answer a question to remind her to check the invoice back to the sales order. It will not be able to exit the program until the ledger is updated. So before she finished, the computer asks you, can you check again with your invoice to make sure the number you put is correct on it? And then that's it. So what kind of controls, example controls that we can have here? For example, we can have a batch total checks. So that's what we did here, right? 12 orders for the batch would be 12 and a total of 20,000. So that's what it is. To confirm the total value of item being processed. So batch total. It can also do a range check. True, range check. So for example, we put the control. The sales can only be within $1,000 to $5,000. If the sales is $6,000, is the system going to go through? No, because it's outside the range. So that is a range check to confirm that quantity are within an acceptable range. So that's another example. Format or digit verification check. So refer to the case study. Make sure it's the same format. 3 letters, 6 numbers. Field checks to confirm that all relevant data fields have been completed. To confirm that all relevant data fields have been completed. For example, you do have that. When when you create an account, the one that has a red star means you have to fill it, right? If you don't, so I don't know if you notice, sometime in question, there's some that have a red star means you have to answer them, and some doesn't have them means you don't have to answer them. If some of the one that you have to answer, it's not being completed, is the system going to let you go through? No, it's going to stop you. So a field check is to make sure all data fields have been completed before letting you go through. Have you guys ever tried that in some time when you create the profile? You forgot to put the phone number. You say proceed, and then there will be like an error, and some field are missing. Please go check again. Or the telephone number not yet recorded. So this is what I call like computer automated controls. So those are what I call more as automated controls. And this is what I call like a manual control, right? Because I say there's manual or automated controls here. Maintenance of master file. Do you guys know what is a master file? This is very important. This is a very important notion in controls for us. Do you guys know what it is? A master file is a file that we keep all the important element, and it's not something that we have to update like every week. It's not something that we need to update frequently. So for a payroll master file, it's included everything that's important for the staff. What do we need to know the staff that we can use permanently? Their name, their phone number, their address, right? This is something that we should keep, then won't change unless they move out, right? In the payroll, we can also have their salary. What's their salary? What's their ID number? What's their bank account number, right? So those are like the permanent important number we get from the client, from the staff. Now, the payroll master file, can everyone have access to it? No, because it has a salary, right? So these have to be kept confidential. Now, customer master file. What should we have in the customer master file? We can have for the customer master file, everything that is important. Like we need to create a customer ID. We need to have their name, their address, their person of contact, their telephone. What else do we need for the customer? Oh, what's the credit limit? Or if they have a special price or whatever, what's their pricing, or what's something important we need to know for them. Maybe we need to write like, oh, they need the delivery by 3, like any special notes. Now supplier, what should we have for supplier master file? Same thing. The supplier ID, contacts, address. What does supplier do for us? They provide us with goods, so maybe we should have their pricing. What's the pricing? Yeah, the price list in the master file. So those are something. Then can people have access to this master file? No, it's all very internal secret things, right? Then also pricing. What our own pricing master file, like what's the pricing of our goods, right? This is also something we should keep. Now, the master file have so much of important information. That's why we need to regularly update it, and we need to regularly review the master file to make sure the document, the data is updated. Maybe if we lost some customer, we should take them out. If we have new customers, we should add them in. Same thing for the supplier and the staff. So this is something that has to be reviewed and checked regularly. So that is the master file. Okay. Now, talking about master file here. I'm here giving you guys a few examples, and these are important. I've seen few questions on this in exam. That's why I adjusted. So how should we maintain a master file? As I mentioned, it's containing data of continuing importance to an entity. So first, make sure that it has restricted access, right? A lot of time in your case study, they'll tell you they have a master file and a lot of people can access it. The clerk, for example, cannot be the regular clerk, right? Who should have access to it? Maybe just the manager or the head of department, or HR, the head of department only, right? Should not have many people to have access to it. Or if they have access to it, they need to work on it. They can just have the function read and cannot have the function edit, right? No edit, right? For example, if it's someone in the payroll department, they can read to prepare the payroll, but they cannot edit it. So every time we need to change anything, it needs to be authorized. That's why I say properly authorized amendment by responsible person. So not everyone can authorize to change anything in it. And in order to do that, we need to make sure we have regular review. Okay? So when we have controls over the information processing, a lot of the example I gave you are controls over input. So before we put the data in it, we make sure it's correct. So for example, a range check, a field check, or format check. If it's not correct, what's gonna do? The system will be error and doesn't let you go through, right? So those are control what we call over input. So before we input data in the system, we make sure the data is correct. So those are controls over input. Controls over processing means that when the system is processing the cells or doing the calculation or whatever, we should have some controls in place for that. But that is what those are like internal formulas. They can double check if everything is okay. So that is controls over processing. So internally in the computer, when they're processing the transaction, we can implement some controls over it, which I'm not an IT person. I don't have the IT knowledge. I don't know how to do it. So this is more over coding. You guys know coding? I don't know, like coding, like you talk to computer, right? Like you 11010, and then you need to do like, for that you need to check blah 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 and that blah blah. So that's more like processing control. I don't have the IT skills for that. Okay. But I can actually also check on output. After the document is being processed, if there's any errors, I can check the output. For example, all the reports, error reports. This is output, right? The items already processed. If there's any error, there's some results coming out, and we're going to check that. So that's what we call output reports. Usually the program report, the error report, we're going to read that. So basically, this is what I call information processing controls. And that's it. That's all for that. It's not very, do you guys understand? It's not very hard. Let's do a quick multiple choice first. Okay. General IT control. Which of the following is not an example of general IT control? Let's have a look together. All computer users must change the logon password every 6 weeks. Is this a general IT control? Computer need to change their password every 6 weeks. What do you guys think? Yes or no? What general IT controls again? All the controls around the system to ensure that it's doing it properly. Did we mention about password before? Yes, so it is a general IT control. All right. Information on computer server is backup every day. So it means that all the data you have, you always back up in another system so that in case your computer lose all the data, you still have a backup. Do you guys back up your data? You do, right? I need to back up the pictures and everything. Every time I almost lose my computer, my phone, I'm less concerned about losing the phone, but more concerned about all my precious pictures, right? So that's something very important. So is that a general IT control? Yes. The accounting system has a program installed which produce batch totals. Yes, this one is an information processing control. So this is a very detailed, specific control here. And the last one, the computer system has a firewall installed. General IT control. This helps for antiviruses. So here the answer is C. All right, very good. Okay, so here we have, let's see. I need to do that. All right, so let's try to do that. Okay, explain what is meant by information processing controls and general IT controls. Identify and describe two examples for each controls. I'll help you for the first one, for the definition. And I would like you guys, Sakan and Vineet. I have Tin in there, but I don't hear him much. To try to answer me this question. Okay? Okay. So what is meant by in general IT controls and what is meant by information processing? All right, so you guys should have a definition in place to record in your little definition booklet. Okay, here I can start with policy and procedures that help to ensure the continued functioning. I do not know exactly the word, but I'll use mine to make sure the computer would be able to operate continuously. I think I will probably to ensure the computer, the computer system can operate continuously. The key idea is here. So normally, but here they say identify and describe two examples for each control. So policy and procedure to help ensure the computer system can operate continuously. It helps to protect the hardware. What else? The program, the software, and the data, in the data files, the softwares, and the data file. So, for example, we need to back up data frequently to prevent any losses. This is what I would have for the question. Let me see, I don't have it by heart. Let me see if I'm missing something. So this is what I would do when you do a homework exercise. I try to write whatever I remember and I go back and I see what's missing. So here, policy and procedure that relate to many applications and support the effective functioning of information processing by helping to ensure the continued proper operation of information system. Relates to the system environment, ensure that computer operation are properly administered to protect hardware, program, and data. I'm probably gonna say to ensure the computer system operations can operate continuously. It helps to protect the hardware, software, and the data file, and it relates to the system environment. All right. Data losses. All right, this is what I would have written in my little book. Is it complete? Maybe not the word by word from the official definition, but I'm confident this for me for 2 marks question, I'll get at least 1 mark. Right? Do you guys agree? I think it's detailed enough for that. All right. So this is what I would have written. Now, what is information processing controls? Information processing control, so it can be manual or automated controls in the computer system that helps to ensure the integrity of the, is it the data? For example, integrity of data, so in to ensure the completeness, and accuracy, right? Of the input or process. But I think probably here's the validity of data. Let me see. A manual automated control specifically in order to initiate, record, process, and report transaction or other financial data. Information processing can be preventive and detective in nature and a design to ensure the integrity of the accounting record. Okay. So here probably I would probably in integrity of the accounting transaction. If the integrity of the it helps to validate the completeness and accuracy of the data being input or processed. Or all right. So this is what I would probably write. Manual automated control in the computer system that helps to ensure the integrity of the transaction. It helps to validate the completeness and accuracy of the data being input or being processed. I think that's probably one is related to the transaction and accounting records. One is related to the system operation. Okay. This is what I would write. All right. I would try to look at the proper definition and try to write my own in my own words that I would probably remember. If you need me to remember exactly like in the slide like this, forget about it. I won't be able to. Or automate control specific to an individual application in order to initiate, record, process, and report. Forget. I'm like I have way too many things to do, so I'll probably just remember some and make myself how to say like a resume, like a summary for myself. So this is why I need you guys to work and to practice by yourself so that you can build up your own definition. The way I memorize here maybe is not the same you want to memorize, right? So maybe this is already maybe even harder. So we try to remember. So sorry. I'm gonna say within. I'm gonna edit and try to write that. Within the computer that helps ensure the integrity of the. All right, so that's what I would do. Okay, doesn't mean it's fully correct to get the format, but I believe if I write that, I can at least get 2 to 3 marks. What do you guys think? Yeah. Again, it's very hard in FAU to get the full 4 marks. All right, I'm not teaching you guys to be perfect student. I want you guys just to pass. Now, I would like you guys, Khan and Nifon is back. Canoe or Sifon and Boniet, I want you to tell me, identify and describe 2 examples for each of the control. I want you to tell me, describe, identify 2 examples. So one is here. For example, we need to back up data frequently to prevent any data loss. So I explain here. Now I would like you guys to do 2 for each. So for general IT controls, can you give me 2? And for information processing tools, can you give me 2? Okay, I'm gonna quickly go to the back. All right, are you guys done? Let's see. Do you guys have do you guys have any example for me? So come, give me an example of general IT control. Let me see, general IT control. Control over access security, control over development, training, staff on the IT software. All right, here, let me copy that. And let's try it together. All right. Okay, so control over access security. All right, for password connection. I think this is a very good idea. I would maybe just want to elaborate a little bit to make it a full sentence, because here they say not only to identify, but you need to describe. So here I probably would write like, in order to have control over access security, we need to install a password protection to prevent unauthorized people to access our computers or files. So Khan, do you see the difference here? I exactly use your idea here, but in order for them to feel that you actually describe it, you would probably need to elaborate a little bit more, okay? But the idea is there, so it's a very good idea. So in order to have control over access, over the access security, we need to install password. Okay, all right. The second one. Let's see what you talked about here. Control over system development training staff on the IT software. All right. This would not be my first choice, but we can actually do it as well. A little bit the same thing then. In order to have control over the system development, we need to implement, we need to establish we need to establish proper training for the staff, training for the staff. Training for the staff on new softwares, on new software to ensure they know how to properly, how to do you have another word than properly? How to correctly use the new programs. So in order to have control over the system development, we need to establish proper training for the staff on the new software to ensure they know how to correctly use the new programs. Okay, did you guys see the difference? I'll add one more. Bunye, do you have one? What is it? Oh, okay, then we can do another one. We already talked about password. We talk about the backup data. We talk about control over the development. Let's have in order to make sure. What's the last one? The control. I forgot the word. I would not have that here. Here. Continuity of operation. To make sure the computer can work continuously without shutting off involuntary. We need to have a secondary backup. Is it backup electric resources? A backup, how do we say it? A power source, a secondary power source. In case there is how to say that? A cutoff. In case there is a cutoff of electricity. In order to make sure the computer can work continuously without shutting off involuntarily, we need to have a secondary backup in case there's a cutoff of electricity, right? A last one. I just want you guys to show. I need you guys to elaborate. Okay? To prevent the computer from natural disaster like a fire, like a fire incident. We need to at least have an alarm, fire alarm, or fire extinguisher to protect our computers. So this is what I say by identify and describe. A very good idea, but this is excellent. I want you guys to work with me so I can see what are the area you guys can improve. So you cannot just say protect fire, and that's it as the answer. Do you think they're gonna give you the point like that? Probably not, right? So you understand? And how do we do that? You need to practice. You need to write. You need to write as much as you can so you know. Very, very good. I'm very happy. Now, second one, information processing control. So Khan, I want you to try to do one for me. And Budiet, one. We can choose one. What kind of example for information processing control? 2 example. What can we do? Let me just say that I can already. I sometimes I like to use multiple choice, because sometimes multiple choice they already give you ideas, and I just use that and I copied that. The accounting system has a batch program installed which produce batch total. Is it his one? And then probably. Oh, you guys have it here. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you guys. Oh, very good. You write very good. Oh, let me see. Information on specific measure implement in the program to ensure the completeness, accuracy, completeness, and validity of data during the process. General IT control can apply to all system component process to the IT environment as a whole. Good. All right, not too bad. Wow. Okay. Here. Information processing. Okay. So, okay, very good. Let's see. So Khan, I think here, they want a specific example. So if they want a specific example, I would actually probably here. Okay, let me edit it. So here. Okay. Control over input. Okay, here, for example, an example of control over input. Okay. So we need to implement. We need to implement control over input to make sure that the data is accurate and complete. Is accurate and complete. So then here we need to implement control of input to make sure the data is accurate and complete. So can you give me an example of a control over input here? Linear? We have a lot. For example, rain check, format check. Right? Do you guys remember format check or rain check? For example, rain check will ensure the number input is within a certain range. A certain limit. How do they say it again? Certain limit? Within a certain limit? I think it's within a certain acceptable range. Within a certain limited range here. Try to not copy exactly the same, okay? So for example, range check will ensure the number input is within a certain limited range, or format check helps to ensure the data input is within the accepted accepted format. For example, three letters and 6 numbers, right? When you don't know how to explain, give an example. All right, so that would be like, okay. All right, so that's good. That's the first one, and then looks at the second one. In order to make sure that we maintain, so here I would probably say, we also need to make sure that we maintain the master file. Probably here I would say as they contain important and confidential information, right? So, very good. So you already said it. Very good. All right. So I'll just the all files. So all file. Sorry, let me take that. All files are restricted assets must be for restricted access. Because, for example, okay, I understand. For example, the payroll master file needs to be restricted as it contains the important information of the salary, as it contains the important information of salary. Here. So do you guys see it needs a little bit of work, right? This time I didn't use anything. I'm really doing it at the same time with you. Takes a bit of time. Need to read. I'll read again. We also need to make sure that we maintain the master file as they contain important information. So here probably I'll just say important. All file must be protected. Must be protected for restricted access. And then I'll put the point. For example, the payroll master file needs to be restricted as it contains the confidential as it contains salary information which is confidential. Looks better. Okay, here. Contain the salary info which is confidential. So this is how I would expect you guys to write an exam. So there's few issues, and this is why I need you guys to really practice. See, it takes me some time, right? To do it, because you need to read, you need to be able to read properly, need to be able to learn how to write, and need to be able to elaborate. So second time Second already you did much better, you're elaborating, so you need to practice on it. Okay, so that's why I say FAU, it's not only about just theory, you need to know how to answer. Okay, a lot of self-work on how to answer this. You guys are lucky now. You guys can use computers, so you can erase whatever. Back in the day, we need to write. So hard to adjust after you write it out. Okay. So also you need to juggle on your time. Remember, you only have 2 hours. So if you never touched this question before, in exam, it's gonna take a long time. But if you have already done it before, you already know partially how to answer, it's gonna go faster. All right, good. Oh, I didn't know this question is gonna take us that much time, but I hope this will help you out. All right, okay, good, good, good. So now we are going to finish the chapter part, chapter 7 too. I'm excited. All right, it's not gonna take you guys very long. So we should be able to finish a bit earlier. All right, so the last part that we have is about communication with management. All right, I like to, before we start that, to look at the syllabus. What do you need to know about this? Okay. You need, as a FAU student, need to be able to evaluate the system of internal control. Basically, what it means is that they're going to provide you with a case study, and you need to be able to learn identify and define significant internal control deficiency, and explain the requirement and methods for communicating significant deficiency to management and those charged with governance. So you need to be able to evaluate the internal system. So we need to know how to do a DIR. I'm going to explain to you now. Basically mean you need to be able to identify what are the deficiency and communicate properly back to the management. So here. Yeah. Oh, oh my God, what happened? Okay. All right. So how do we communicate with the management? So we actually talk a lot with the management. So during the audit, at the beginning, we talk about with the management to understand what are the, how is the business, what are the changes during the years, what are the risks, etc. So we're going to talk a lot during the planning. And during the, so this is more during the planning. And during the audit, we're going to ask the management related to a lot of explanation and evidence, right? So if ever we find any errors, hey, your sales doesn't match to your QuickBook, what were we going to do? Can you explain why it doesn't match? So we need to go and evaluate that. And we're also going to ask the client to prepare some representation letters to us. So during this time, we're going to communicate a lot with the management to talk about that. And at the end of the audit, we will talk about with the management about what are the adjustments that we recommend, what are the recommendations, and what are the practical difficulties. For example, we had a hard time to obtain the document from the IT department. They were very late to provide us. Can you make sure next year they prepare ahead? Okay, so those are what we call like practical difficulties. This year the planning took a lot, like a lot of time because we are missing some documents. So you have one of the manager that was not cooperating with us, or like we were not allowed to go to the office at certain times. So we're going to talk about what we encountered. What are the adjustments? Did we find any errors? If we find any errors, what are the adjustments the client need to do? And we also need to talk about the recommendation for controls. So this is what we are focusing on now. So all the communication should be discussed with the appropriate person. Usually we do it written, and documented in working paper. Why it's written? Because it's a proof that we have communicated properly with those charged with governance. All right. During the audit, we will prepare what we call a letter on internal control. That will define what are the different deficiency in internal controls and what we are recommending the management to improve on. So why do we give a letter on internal control? To specify on what are the deficiencies. All right, think about it. Okay. During the planning, what did we do? Or during let's say we decided during planning that the controls of the client are reliable. Okay. If it's reliable, what does it mean? It means that we can do tests of controls and substantive procedures, right? Right? When the controls are reliable, my audit strategy is to perform tests of control and substantive procedures. Now, when we test the controls, we were able to see if the controls were operating effectively or not, right? We gathered a lot of information, so when we understand the entity, we gather information about how are the controls of the client. Now, if the client have some control that were not operating effectively, then for us, these are deficiencies, and we're going to provide a report on internal control about those. Okay, so that's what it is. And this is what we're talking about right now. So during the audit, because we are already testing on these controls, we're already doing some work on these controls. So what we offer is like a extra service. So this is like an extra service that we give to the client. Because we are already testing your controls, I can provide you at no extra charge on what are the deficiencies on the controls that you should improve next year so that your reporting will be better. All right, so this is what it is. The auditor shall communicate in writing significant deficiency internal control identified during the audit to those charged with governance on a timely basis. And how the report will be, it's like that, all right? The format, the way we need to give to the client, DIR, this is why I call it DIR. Deficiency, implication, recommendation. First, I need to describe what's the weakness that we found. Second, I need to tell what are the consequences to the company. Are we going to lose some money? It's going to be fraud. How this is going to impact the company. And the recommendation, practical and cost effective, and we need to be specific. What I don't want is you write, there's no segregation of duty. You need to probably go back. Segregation of duty means different people have to do separate a separate job to ensure that the job is done properly without any collusion to prevent errors. You have a slide last chapter, okay? So, no segregation of duty. What's the implication? Fraud. And then what do you recommend? Segregation of duty. Think about it. Will your client who have paid you $10,000, if you need them to give you a report, will they appreciate if you give a report like this? And they pay $10,000? Probably not, right? You need to give a little bit more details, right? No segregation of duty. About what? Who? What did they do? The cashier is receiving the money, recording the money, depositing the money, for example. What's the consequence? You need to tell a bit of detail. The cashier can pocket the money and not record it, and you will never know about this money. Okay, that will attract my attention. What's the recommendation? If you just say separate the function, the client will be, of course I know now I need to separate the function, but as a professional, how can you be a little bit more specific and be more practical? The cashier should be the one receiving the money. The accounting clerk should be the one recording it. And the supervisor should be the one, or the whatever should be the one deposit. Like you need to give a bit more specific who should do what. Okay? So this is how I want you guys to be, and cost effective, right? If it's a flower shop, don't tell him to hire 3 different people, like we just learned, right? So, I have 2 examples here. Purchases. Some store all their goods from X0 orally without preparing a purchase order. We just call an order without any document. Is that a good thing? No. There's a possibility of liability being set up for non-authorized item at a non-competitive price, right? You make an order without having a proper document, having to check for the price and everything. So we recommend the purchase. So here it says some store order by themselves. We should not. We could recommend the purchase department should be responsible for such order, and an official order form should be raised as a confirmation. Okay, we're gonna do a lot. You need to, in FAU, be able to write me a DIR. We will practice together. Don't worry. After we're gonna do chapter 8, 9, we're gonna do a few DIR together. Okay. Now this is another one. This is related to receivable ledger. AR accounted for 12 weeks of sale, although the standard credit term are cash within 30 days of settlement. I copied that from your BPP book, so the way they write is too formal. What I would have written here is we get paid by customer in 3 months instead of 30 days. Right? We only get paid by customer after 3 weeks, after 3 months. But normally we should get paid after 30 days. Okay? So what's gonna happen? It needs 3 months to recuperate the money. So what's the implication? If we don't have money, then we may not be able to pay our supplier on time. So what do we recommend? We recommend to have an up-to-date follow-up on the AR and sending letters. So we should send a letter 1 week before they need to pay and call them. And if they have any problem, we should know ahead so we can manage our cash flow better. Here, I'm giving you just an example like that. But what we're going to do in real life, in FAU, it's something different than that. We're going to do something similar to this. So today we're not gonna do what we'll do on next Thursday. I'll show you guys. You're not gonna be randomly like that. What you're gonna have, it's something like that. So in exam, you're gonna have a case study. So see, this is a case study that you have. You're gonna read it, and within the case study, you need to help me to identify what's the deficiency. You need to describe how this deficiency will have as consequence, the implication. And by yourself, you need to recommend what's the improvement. Okay, so every time it will be a case study, and then you need to tell me deficiency, implication, improvement. Usually this is a long exam question, like a 10 marks or a 15 mark question. We're gonna do few together. And there are about 10 of them in your BPP book. It takes a long time because the case study is quite long. So I would need really you guys to try to do some by yourself afterwards, okay? What I show you today is just the format. This is how we need to write it, DIR. Deficiency, what's the implication, and what's my recommendation. And that's it. So that's all for today. I just need to communicate that with you guys. And on next Thursday, so Tuesday I'll call it off, and next Thursday we will have a 3-hour class, so that you guys can fully enjoy your holiday. All right. But that 1 hour we'll need to recuperate somewhere. Let me think where, but we'll do that later. Okay. So thank you very much. So Khan and Tinun, if you're here, and Sai, I'm done. Sai is my LSC. All right, good. Oh, do we have a homework? Okay, wait a second. You have 2 homework for next Tuesday. You need to be able to tell me to describe the 5 component. Oh my God. Who only did Steve Hong and Vatana? All right. All my other, even Ming Hood and Sukan, Bunit. Please try to do that. Describe the 5 component. State 5 control activity. Please provide an example. Why I asked you to do that? Because that's inside your syllabus. You need to prepare for exam. All right? So have a good night. Good night. Bye-bye. All right, you can go. Bye-bye. Good night. Good night, Sukan.